Really unfortunate that the NBA had to rig. Oh, it's funny how that pops up. NBA had to rig for Boston Celtics to make it to the finals. It's just unfortunate. I mean, obviously they did it for money reasons. 70% of the 60 to 70% of the fans wanted to see Boston in the finals versus the Warriors. Um, I think that would have changed though if like they just were true about what's going on and gave Miami a fair perspective in the media. People would have fell in love with Miami basketball, but it is what it is. Obviously, the money's there just from the history of the Celtics. Um, so the money's there. That's why they rigged it. But it's just unfortunate they did because Miami would have won that series. Miami was up 2-1 despite the terrible calls in the first three games. Miami was clearly just the better team, but every single game, the Celtics got more free throws and more calls, and it wasn't a game plan thing. It was just outright. If you watched every minute of the game, as I did, it was just an outright, okay, that's not a call. And then Miami would get hacked. They don't call it. And then they would come down the floor, and Boston would get yet another foul. So it was just obvious. It was all game, every single game. So it was just obvious that they were favoring Boston. And it was so blatant that it was obvious as rigged. So it's non-debatable, especially to people who watched every minute, unless you're a casual and you just don't understand that a foul is when you make a play on the ball, but you actually make contact with somebody. A foul is not being in the same spot as the person taking a layup and putting your hands in the air and backing off in most cases and not touching them in some cases and getting called for a foul. That is not a foul. A foul is not when you're in the same spot as the person taking a layup. And they were taking layups every single trip because they knew that they would get the call. And we were taking layups because we knew we had to force the call or else this thing's going to get out of hand. Anyways, I'm getting off track. It was obviously rigged if you watched it, but taking a look at the numbers, knowing this, I took a look at the numbers and of free throws throughout the whole series, and it was actually more of a discrepancy, if that's the right word, more of a difference when Miami didn't make it a series. When they were down 3-2, it was like 160 to 60, a difference of like 100 points, 100 free throws, but they're basically 100 points. But knowing this, I fucking looked at the totals and they made it closer. It was ended up being 200. Surprise, surprise. Boston had more free throws. I'm not just making this up, but yeah, it ended up being, what a coincidence, right? So it ended up being 200 total free throws to Miami's 150, 147. So there's a difference of 50, difference of 25%. But when you watch the games, it was actually more 50 to 75% of the calls were for them. But yeah, it averaged out to about 25% difference, which, that's kind of crazy. You'd think it'd be like 11% if they're excellent and they're not rigging it. And in a perfect case, and it just being a coincidence that they got more, it'd be like a 8% difference, a 9%, 15%, 20 maybe on the extreme side. But you start talking 25% difference, that's like a fourth of the game. Anyways, the whole point of it is when you add up the difference of scores, we would have won the series off math alone. We would have won the series if it was closer free throws given and fouls given, what was the total fouls? I didn't check that until just now. Personal fouls, 153 to 156. So they ended up being the same, but they got 200 more, or five, they got 15 more free throws. Figure that. So that means Boston was going into the bonus faster, which they were. It would be 2-3 minutes into a quarter, and they would have 4 fouls already be in the bonus. And if you watch the games, the fouls were bullshit. They were not even. Yeah. Anyways, I'm losing my train of thought because I have multiple points coming to my head. Not only the free throws, but let's look at the turnovers. I'm willing to bet that Boston had more turnovers. And that's so crazy. Boston won. Boston had more free throws, so they should have less turnovers, right? They're the better defense, right? Watch me get proved wrong because I'm putting on this whole show. But I'm willing to bet. So 102 to 80. 100 turnovers to 80 turnovers. 58 steals to 41 steals. Wow. That's kind of crazy. Let's see the three-point percentage. 34 to Miami's 3. We weren't hitting shots, but how can you hit shots when you know every single time you have to hit the shot, or else the opponent's going to go up by 10 because they are... Bro, we had 138. I thought we had 200 assists. I was about to say. But yeah, you know, like, it throws off your whole shit. You have to hit the shot because they're gonna call you for a foul and they're gonna get 3 points on the other end. They're gonna get the lead. The refs are giving them the game, so you have to hit your shots. There's extra pressure. Anyways, my whole main point of the video, people, is if you add up the scores, it's like Boston's total score 25 here, 20 here. It's like 50 some to Miami's 30, right? A difference of 20. The whole series was difference of 20. Do you know what the difference in free throws were? 50. So if you half that, we win the series. Pretty much. If it's the same, we win the series. So do you see what I'm saying? The game was tied. And all the people who didn't watch the games, it wasn't Boston was up by 20 all game and then Miami just squeaked this win out. No, every single game they were winning or tied. Most of the time winning. And the refs would bring Boston back into the game. Or they would give them points to when it was tied to give them the lead. And in the games they lost, Miami was winning or tied the game, but the rigging was too much and we weren't hitting our shots that game. So do you see how they rigged this series? So it's just very unfortunate for Miami. And then it's funny how I went to the numbers, and the numbers even show. And then if you watch the game footage even shows that they're just calling foul after foul. So it's just really unfortunate. This was Miami's year. Miami had locked up Steph Curry in the regular season, and they were capable of beating the Warriors. The only real threat was the Suns, and then when the Suns got knocked out, the only real threat was the Celtics. But then when we were up 2-1, I'm like, oh, shit. And then the refs, I mean, it was the whole series, but even up to 2-1, but then the refs were just too much in the end. We could have still won at the very end, but despite it all, we could have still won at the very end, but Jimmy Butler. So once you start making mistakes and the refs are giving them the game, there's no way you're winning the series. It was so close. I mean, even if they would have won the series, I would have made this video because it was just terrible. And yeah, make sure you share and like, because I mean, it's just plain as day. Like okay, this is what I did. It was 11, 6, so that's 17, and then 13, so it's 30, right? The games we won, we were up by 30 total. The games they won 4, it was 50. It ended up being 50. So 50 to 30, difference of 20. The difference in free throws was 50 free points. And it was really more so, it's because the last 2 games, they gave Miami more calls in the end because they knew they were winning. And I'm guessing they wanted to balance it out by the end of the series. And then the last game, they called it pretty much dead even in the last game. So we still could have won at the very end, but I don't know why Jimmy took that 3. But yeah, and that's what Celtics fans will cling on to. You just lost at the very end. The refs don't matter. The whole series, we would have easily won the series if it wouldn't be in that spot in Game 7, last shot. We wouldn't be in that spot. We would have won 4-1 or 4-2. Easy. We would have won 4-1 or 4-2. But instead, we lose in 7 because the refs had an agenda. And they got to make their money. It just is unfortunate.